Welcome back to Advancing with Amy. I'm Amy. On today's episode of Advancing with Amy, we're diving into a real, raw conversation with Yakov Weinstein. From surviving a childhood marred by abuse to striking out on his own at just 12 years old, Yakov's story is nothing short of incredible. He'll share how he grappled with feelings of being different in his search for answers through therapy, medication, and more. It wasn't until he discovered transformational work that he began to understand maybe there wasn't anything wrong with him at all. Tune in to hear how Yakov is turning tough beginnings into powerful lessons and leading others to do the same. All right, we're here with Yakov Weinstein, who is a certified life coach and Psych K facilitator. He found a way to grow through a challenging childhood, even in the limited experiences of a sheltered community. He emerged stronger and more determined than ever. His obsession is the unwavering belief that we create our reality, therefore we can have the lives we desire. Fueled by a love for people, adventure, and freedom, he's on a mission to guide others in setting themselves up to win. He believes you can master your body and mind, and they will be the driving force to your success. He wants you to choose to step into a narrative where resilience and determination blend with dreams to achieve a life you want to live. Well, that sounds wonderful, Yakov. Welcome.
Thank you, Amy. Glad to be here.
I'm glad to have you. So tell me a little bit about your journey. What led you to life coach?
So I had a pretty tumultuous upbringing. I was physically abused, sexually abused, emotionally abused. I kind of went off on my own around like 12 years old. I was done living in my house and under my parents' rule. And for the longest time, I was just trying to figure out what's wrong with me. Like, why can't I just fall in line like everybody else? Like, why am I different? So I tried a lot of the traditional things: therapy, medication, more God, less God, rehab, a whole bunch of different things to try to figure out what was wrong with me. And it wasn't until I got into transformational work where I started even hearing people talk about the idea that there's actually nothing wrong with you and everything is exactly as it should be. And once I started hearing that, I mean, I was obviously very attracted to that. And I also didn't get any significant results in therapy. Not to bash therapy. There are definitely good therapists. There are modalities that are better than others, but it wasn't what made the difference for me. And as I learned more about coaching, transformational work, I just knew that's what I wanted to bring to the world, share with the world. It was so empowering to me. Like this idea, I still learn more and more about it. Like we're designed intentionally, and that system in place to ensure that we don't die operates a certain way when we're not in a healthy environment. And therapy deals very much in the why, right? But why isn't going to change my life?
I tend to agree with you. Tell us a little bit more about what transformational coaching is.
So when I say transformational coaching, I really just mean world of like they have these personal development, all these workshops. And so they all have the same language as coaching. And that's the language, as I see it, of the language of possibility. There's nothing more painful to me when someone tells me nothing's possible or you can't have it, or the idea that dreams are just there to tease us just does not work for me.
Right. Well, I think that's beautiful that you found such a good niche in your life and that you've turned all of that heartache into something where you're helping others.
Yeah. And I'm grateful for that. And it's not always sunshine and rainbows. Like I still struggle. I still have bad days. I think the main difference is though that I stayed down for much smaller amounts of time. So, like I used to get stuck in bouts of depression or anger or misery for who knows how long. And now a few hours. I mean, if it's really, really, really bad, I'll isolate for a day, and then it's like, okay, I'm kind of done with that. That's
incredible. That's quite an improvement.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm grateful for that. Yeah.
How did you luck into finding out about life coaching and transformational coaching? Did someone say, hey, you might want to try this or?
So it's interesting because the first like personal development and transformational work. So I was married to, I guess, my high school sweetheart. We met when we were very young, like 15, 16. We got married 18, 19, and that lasted 14 years. I have two amazing kids from that relationship. And it was actually her father that was very into personal development. And at first I was kind of like, I saw it maybe as an opportunity to bond with him a little bit, to develop some sort of relationship. But actually the first time I got involved in that sort of work, I used it. I mean, it was so new to me, the idea that there's nothing wrong with you. You're good the way you are, that I used it to become a entitled prick and became very self-absorbed and really just was only looking out for myself. But the blessing in that was that it really sped up my hitting rock bottom. Had that not happened, I probably would have coasted around for a while. And once I was exposed to that language, it just made it easier to find more about it. Once I got introduced to Landmark Worldwide, that's when you're nodding like you're familiar with that organization.
Heard of it, yeah.
So once I got involved there, that was really when my personal development journey started having more of an upward trajectory.
That's great. So I was kind of reading through some things you had written, and you said that you used to feel like everybody was out to get you.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's changed.
Yeah. Oh, thank God. I mean, there's a quote from Albert Einstein. He said, the most important question facing humanity is, do you live in a friendly or hostile universe? And for me, I definitely lived in a hostile universe. And I had proof. I had proof of all the bad things people had done to me. I had proof of all the results that were or weren't in my life. But all that seemed to do was get me more of that.
That's exactly how it works.
Yes. And then one of my more recent mentors, Peter Sage, he said this idea of everything is happening for you, not to you. And I know it wasn't the first time I heard that, but somehow I was ready and it just really resonated. And I just started working on how do I see the blessing or the opportunity in whatever I've been through or whatever I'm up against or whatever's going on in my life. And essentially what that becomes is I start looking for good,
Wow.
So
and then you find it.
yes, because both are always available.
Right.
Circumstances are just circumstances. Nothing is inherently good or inherently bad. Things just are. We're the ones who attach all the meaning to it. But we don't take responsibility for that. We're not honest that we're the ones attaching all that meaning. We interact with it as if this is what it means.
Like
But
it's
then,
happening to us. Yes.
yes. Yeah. So if I'm living in a hostile universe and things are happening to me, my life is going to look a very certain way. And I'm a victim. I'm a victim. And victimhood it's just not the life I'm interested in.
Right. So what would you say to someone who's struggling and going through a hard time themselves and they have not gotten into personal development and they're listening to you now? What would you recommend they start with?
So that's a hard question to answer. Everything in my life unfolded in a very specific way so that I would be able to use it. I guess what I wish I would have known much earlier on is that if we're dealing with depression, if we're dealing with anxiety, if we're dealing with pretty much any mental disorder to some extent, that's the rumble strip on the side of the highway telling us something is wrong. Not in the sense of, not in the sense that something's wrong with you, in the sense of you are not in line with who you are.
I like that
So,
analogy.
yeah. So it's essentially like depression, anxiety, like these are this means everything's working. Like our default programming is to survive, which is really just to not die. So our bodies are designed to do all these sorts of things to figure out how to deal with whatever we're up against. But this happens unconsciously. This happens subconsciously. We're not aware of it. So just by recognizing that things in our body, the experiences that we're going through, the way we're feeling them, there's something in it for us. It's not, oh my gosh, I'm screwed. Look at where I'm at. No, no, no. There's a message there. It's trying to point you towards something. It's wants you to notice something.
I never thought about it like that, but that makes sense. I actually just went through depression a couple months ago. I have bipolar disorder, so that happens now and then.
Mhm.
And one thing I've noticed is since I've gotten into personal development and I've got a life coach and I've been working on things that even in the midst of the depression, which it was caused by my thyroid being really off, but even in the midst of that depression with me not knowing that's what was causing it at the time, because of what I've been learning, I could tell myself this is going to end and this is not forever. And this is just something going on with you right now and it's going to get better, which I haven't always been able to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, 100%. I mean, hope is so important. Having hope, being able to work towards a better future. You know, when we don't have hope, that's essentially what depression is, when we don't see a way out. So when we learn this stuff, when we start recognizing this too shall pass, there's all these buzzwords. But when we start even learning a little bit about how that works inside the body, I heard this amazing thing that blew my mind when I heard this. A feeling unresisted will last 90 seconds and then it will be neutralized or turned to joy.
I did not know that. That is great information.
Yeah. So anytime things aren't going the way we want, we're feeling badly about ourselves or anything like that, the first thing is to stop resisting it. There's nothing wrong with you for having those thoughts. You're not a bad person for having those thoughts. There's nothing to be ashamed about for having those thoughts. I mean, we all have negative self-talk. You know, some of ours is worse than others, you know, but that's also an opportunity to learn how to love ourselves more.
Yeah.
And the more we love on ourselves, the more we find the more we are open to being loved, especially by ourselves, because nothing outside of me is ever going to fix me. It's always got to be internal. Our outer world is a reflection of our inner world and not the other way around.
That is so true. And I thought the opposite for so many years.
Yes, so did I.
Yeah. Have you found that this has had a big effect on your relationships with friends and family? And
100%. 100%, especially because, I mean, I people please less or differently. I'm more intentional about the people I allow in my life. Like the people we surround ourselves with, the people I surround myself with are people that I know are going to be able to remind me who I say I am because I'm going to forget. The people who used to be around me were the people that I thought I needed to have around me. So they were all like transactional relationships. There was no one holding me to my higher self. I wasn't holding anyone accountable to who they were.
yeah.
And that's really important.
You said before that you had some experience trying to bring in more God into your life and then less God into your life and everything like that. So how has that kind of settled out for you?
It's still something I struggle with continuously. And I think a lot of it has to do with the version of God I grew up with and through my traumatized lens. So because I was physically abused, because I was sexually abused, there was a way I was already viewing the world. So when I would learn about these things, I was learning it through the view of being traumatized. I didn't know that's how I was learning about it, but because that was the way I saw things for so long. That stuff just doesn't go away because even though consciously it doesn't make sense anymore.
Right.
So there's still old programming that I'm still dealing with, that I still trying to put in new programming. But again, that's also why I'll surround myself with people who have an idea of or a model of God that works for me, that I'm able to believe in. I heard someone, I heard this line once saying, that version of God, I don't believe in either. You know, like, yeah, I mean, the God that, at least the way I see my parents or the way they interact with God, I mean, they say that he's a loving God, but if God is really loving and I trust that he's taking care of me, then even the things that he puts me through, I'm able to, I'm able to be with because I know they're coming from a place of love, which means I would experience more happiness. I would tend to experience happiness no matter what is going on in my life for the most part. Yeah, of course, I'd still struggle, but my parents would talk about being happy and talk about a loving God, but I never saw them interacting with him that way or being happy. And I'm not trying to bash my parents. They did the best they could. I think we're all doing the best that we could,
Right. They
you
did
know?
what they knew how.
Exactly.
Yeah. I just wondered because I was raised in Catholicism and there was a lot of fear God and God knows what you're thinking and just a lot of guilt in that arena. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I've had to come to a different understanding of God myself. And so to me, it's more of an energy now
Hmm.
and kind of what the energy we have is a piece of God, and the energy you have when you're in a big mass crowd,
Hmm.
that's God.
Hmm.
I think that there's so much anger and resentment and stuff in the old religious ways that I think finally the world is starting to wake up and say, you know what? We really do believe in a loving God.
Yeah, I agree with you. But what I think is also interesting is that I think with what I now know and what I've now learned about religion, God, humans, and I go back and I read some of the Bible and stuff like that, I see it differently. Like it's not a contradiction. I don't see it as a contradiction. If you look at the way we used to survive, the interpretation is very much in line with the way they saw the world. But the words don't have to actually mean that, especially when you look at, it's all comes or the Torah, the Old Testament, originally in Hebrew. So like when you read it in Hebrew, it's possible to read it as a loving God.
Hmm.
It doesn't have to be fire and brimstone. Yes, there are parts in there that I struggle with, that I find difficult, reconciling a loving God doing some of these things. But I heard this really great example. Like, so if a person has gangrene or cancer, it doesn't matter which part of the body that has that. You do what's necessary to remove it because otherwise the person's going to die.
Right.
So I mean, what we now know about science, and you were talking about energy before, I mean, essentially the world, the universe is one being. And it's possible for in the being of the one world for it to get sick. And if it has this horrible disease that's going to destroy this being, then it's important to act or to treat it in a way and deal with it, remove it.
That
So
makes sense.
that's how I've been able to reconcile some of the scary stuff that I've read, or like, how is this loving? You know, 'cause when you're
Right.
removing a tumor, that's loving.
Yeah.
I heard another
Well,
really great example, and like, if you're exercising and you're in the gym, you can take on the perspective of the muscle, and then you're like this masochist, breaking and tearing the muscle and shredding it and causing all this damage. But if you take on the perspective of the body, that's how you grow muscle.
right. Yeah. Well, I think also I heard something the other day that I thought was powerful. They were talking about how if we're truly made in the image of God, then we ourselves are creators too. And so we create our own life. And I thought that was pretty deep.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been hearing a lot of thoughts become things,
Hmm.
and that's something I like. I find that my thoughts and feelings are the last place that I still can find myself being a victim to, so I do what I can to be responsible for, okay, so how do I have different thoughts? How do I have different feelings? Like our brains, we call it thinking, but it's really thoughting. We're not playing any active role in much of the thoughts that come into our head. It's like I've never, I've never one time thought that I was my leg, my arm. It's like I have a leg, I have an arm. It's my body. But the trick that the mind plays on us is that I am my mind. And it's not, it's simply another tool.
Wow. Yeah, I like that. Well, and I think that one of the things I like about what you're saying is that you are not requiring yourself to be perfect. You're not requiring that you already have this incredible mindset and that you're always going to be thinking positively. You leave room for that old negative stuff to come in and you just learn to fix it quicker.
Yeah, I think I would say it's slightly different because I obviously would prefer it doesn't come back in. The work that I to do is how do I be more loving and compassionate towards myself, especially because of what you said before. If it's true that I am created in God's image, and that's just not, and it's not just words that we say, if that's actually true, then that says something about who I am. And then think about some of the thoughts you'll have towards yourself or the negative self-talk you'll have to yourself. If you heard someone speak that way to another person in public, you would probably intervene.
Oh, yeah.
So why in the world is it okay for me to talk to myself that way?
Yeah. I don't know. That's an interesting thought.
Yeah. So when I catch myself treating myself that way, like stop. Like, no, that's not okay.
Yeah.
That's not okay.
Yeah. So, Yakov, I really enjoyed talking with you about this. Is there anything you'd like to make sure that our listeners know moving forward?
Yes. Don't stop dreaming. Do not give up on the life that you want for yourself. You can have it. You deserve it. I don't know how long it's going to take you to get there. I don't know what you need to do to get there, but our dreams are not meant to tease us. Our dreams are meant to inspire us. Don't give up. Like, don't give up.
Yeah, I love that. All right, where can we find you?
So my website is bio.site/transformational consulting. Has some free content there as well. Yeah, I offer free discovery sessions. For me, it's very important that I'm providing value. Yes, obviously, I do like to support my family, but you know, I try to live in line with follows value. And actually, right now, I'm in the middle of, or I'm offering a 6 month group coaching program, and it's a newish program, so I will be charging $4,000 a person for the 6 months of coaching, but for your listeners, I would offer a 50% discount and it would just be $2,000 for 6 months of group coaching. And it would be a real opportunity to question the things that have not been questioning, to really analyze who have I been? What are my belief systems? Why does my life look the way that it does? And what can I do about it?
That sounds great. And what a great deal for 6 months. That's a long time for that price. So good deal. Thank you for offering that. And I'll make sure I put that information in the show notes. And I think I saw you on Facebook.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think I'm so bad with social media. I try to be on it as much, but I get distracted very easily on there.
That's okay. I'll put that in the show notes as well, just in case somebody wants to check you out on there.
Yeah, it's on the bio site, my Instagram and my LinkedIn and my Facebook. Yes, all there.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much, Jakob. I really enjoyed talking with you today.
Thank you, Amy. I really appreciated it.
Sure. I hope you have a great weekend.
You as well. Thank you.
Well, that's a wrap on another episode of Advancing with Amy. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share. Keep on advancing, warriors. Oh, and one more thing. I forgot to tell you all that Yakov has a really good analysis to see if your values are where you want them to be, and a journal to help you figure out if you're living off of old ideas and beliefs. So check those out in the show notes.